I was at a flea market and I found something I want to show you. I want to talk a little bit about it. This here. What is this? These are Tupilaks. They came from Greenland and they were made in Greenland by Inuit people. And these Tupilaks, you come across them very rarely nowadays, but 20 years ago they were, would not say more often, but you could find them more often, but you would have found them. I found some of them, and I later on sold through a friend through a museum, and so I have had not one anymore. And yesterday I found these, and this is really cool. There's a difference in between both Tupilaks, not just because of the shape, but also because of the material. And this one here is a later one, and this one is an earlier one. It started everything of this carving of Tupilaks, of these ghost figurines, started in the late 19th century, in the 1880s, when an ethnographic or anthropology person went to Greenland, and he asked the Inuit people there if they could describe him a ghost, what they were speaking about, and they said no, we can't really, and they started to carve one for him. And later on, these in the 60s, 70s, 1980s, these became craftwork items sold to tourists, and that's also Greenland is also famous for. So everything began with wood in the 1880s, where these were carved in wood, still sometimes carved in wood, but later on they started to use walrus ivory, walrus teeth, and this one here is pre-1970, and it's made from that material. I have to say that, and even whale ivory, and the point is that these tribes that are living in Greenland and living in the Arctic, they quite often still use foodways that were traditional to them, because simply they are living quite often, even nowadays, in regions that are not reachable during the whole year. So they have to live from what's on hand, and still, and even catching whales and so on butcher them is quite normal, because as I said, it's their old way to live, and they have numbers they can shoot, they can hunt. It's not a lot of not no high numbers, but they still can do this and use the meat for their own living, and the material, the teeth, whatever that are used, and even baleen, for example, are used by the craft workers to make something from it. As I said, it's these species are protected, but from indigenous people they still can be used, and they are special laws for them. So this one here is an old one, and you see the walrus, you see the teeth, you see it has a crack in the center. You see here. That's it's my first one with a crack. So, but okay, I have to take it as it is. But you see, like here, it's like a tree. This speaks for a teeth material, and not for ivory from an elephant. Elephant has Schreger lines. That's crossed. It's a crossed pattern you will see, but does it look like a tree? And sometimes these walrus ivory has some dots inside. That's where, when these animals are struggling and fighting, where the teeth are crushing together, the material will get some dots inside. And that's how you can see where it comes from. Yeah. And this black material is an inlay of a different material. So what's interesting is here you see a seal tail, and you also see it here. That's interesting. So This one is a later one. Since the 1970s, these were done in reindeer antler because it's free to trade. And they substituted the material, and you see it here. I don't know if the camera will get it. It's a spongy material here. And this it's a bone structure, inside bone structure, and this is a reindeer, an antler. Where you see it, you also see it. It's difficult to get. I don't know if the camera will get it. You also see it here inside. So you see that it's coming from an antler, from a reindeer. And it's quite thick for a reindeer, but it's maybe from an older animal. So that's why. And also the reindeer antlers, they were shredded. They were falling off one time a year. So the reindeer does not even have to die for making some craft work like this. So you see a bear here. It's really interesting. And quite often these standing figurines, it's Tupilak, so it's very typical for them. And as I said, in the 60s, it started to make them as craft work, as souvenirs for tourists. Yeah, and quite often more in the north of Germany, you will find them on flea markets. But as I said, it was more often when in the back in the day, in 20-30 years ago, it was quite more often to see them, and I was very happy that I found them. This was a really cool thing. As I said, I have sold away, traded through a friend. I traded all my ones I had. I found 20 years ago. It's a long time ago. Everything long time ago. So I'm happy that I can show these items to you, and that maybe I hope you learned something from it. And yeah, that's crazy stuff you can find on the flea markets sometimes.